What's up, you guys? How's everybody doing today? I just thought I'd come and make a part 2 telling you guys about myself, my life, get to know me more. I'll try to make this video, I don't know how many times, but before I get into the video, let me tell you that I did just have my first grandbaby. He was born on October the 21st, about 4:32. His name is Cassius Creed. So pretty excited about that. He's just too cute. He has this red hair, long eyelashes for a newborn, weighed 8 pounds, 6.6 ounces, 21 inches long. So I definitely want to welcome him to the family. And eventually I'll upload some pictures of for you guys to see. So I'm really excited about that. I also, if you watch my other video, you do know that I have 2 businesses. One trailer business and then my hair business. But I also just bought another trailer that drives. It's more of a mobile home. So I got to get it gutted. There was a little leak in the ceiling, like on the roof. So I gotta have somebody come next week and he's gonna fix that up. But we're just gonna gut the whole inside and then get busy. So I will definitely try to take you guys along on that journey. And hopefully everything goes smooth. I'm trying to get it done as quickly as possible. So our other trailer, it's mobile, but it doesn't drive, so we have to hook it up to the truck all the time. So I'm always winding, and it has tore my shoulder up. My grandmother says it's my rotator cuff, so I don't know. She says it won't get better until I have surgery, so hopefully that's not what it is, though it has been hurting for about 3 to 4 months. So, but yeah. So back to what this video is going to be about. I try to do this video about a good 9 or 10 times. One day I was just crying and it didn't go so good. I kept getting stopped. I either had a call where somebody was coming to the door. I lost an uncle this past weekend rather more, and his funeral will be this Saturday. So my dad is staying here. He came from out of town, from Houston, and he's staying here. And my grandmother is supposed to be coming back, which is my dad's mom, and she's supposed to be staying. I'm not for sure when she's coming in, so just been having a lot going on. But I wanted to tell you guys about how I lost my mom to a disease called HIV. Just depending on how old you are, you've probably heard of it. Especially, the adults. I lost my mom December 1992. I had just turned 10. My brother under me would have been 8 or 7. He might have not been 8 yet. I think he was 7. And then I think the younger 3 were 3, 2, and 1 when my mom passed. My mom died when she was 25 years old, which is very young, very young. And yes, she had 5 kids. We were always well taken care of, that's for sure. I mean, nothing's definitely easy, but she did what she was supposed to. But I'm past that now, being 25, but just imagining where I was at 25, you haven't even quite lived your life at all. As earliest as I can remember, I remember being at my grandfather's house with my dad. I used to go over there a lot, and I think that I knew that my mom had went to the doctor. I definitely didn't know what for, and wouldn't have understood at that time. But I remember my mom coming to pick me up. And as we were walking out the door, she asked me if I wanted something from the store, and I remember saying no. That's not usual. Usually I would want something, but for some reason that day I just didn't want nothing. I could feel something. I didn't quite know what it was. I mean, too young to really put feelings with the emotions. I wasn't 10 at this time. I probably was about 8. So I told her no, I didn't want anything. And we got in the car and went around the corner to an aunt's house. And there was just a lot of family sitting in the living room talking, the adults talking, kids playing. I joined the rest of the kids playing. And we haven't been there long before one of my aunties, she's one of the older aunties, she was like, so what did they tell you? Did they tell you you're sick? Are you gonna die? And honestly, she was just joking. Well, when she said die, my mom said yes. And she jumped up and started crying and ran out of the house, outside to the car. Me being a kid, playing, once I heard her say yes to dying, it just sends a panic through you. Something that I definitely can't describe, but I still know the feeling that I felt way back then. So I definitely was no longer interested in playing. I kind of stood there for a minute, and eventually I made my way outside to the porch, and I seen some of my aunties outside at the car with my mom, and I guess they were just consoling her. I couldn't hear much. And one of them eventually came and told us kids to get ready so that we could go. And we went home, and I just remember my mom going in her room and just staying in her room. It didn't take long back in those days. You know, I think doctors and people were still trying to understand HIV and AIDS. Back then, during those times, it was a time where people felt like if you touched anything having HIV or AIDS, that they would get it too. If they breathed the same air as you, that they would get it too. You just were treated a totally different way. So it didn't take long for my mom to just get sick. Now that I'm older, and when I think back on these things, I think she stressed herself out so much that when you're thinking about dying, or you know that eventually you're gonna die, and you're constantly thinking about it, it stresses you out to where you're thinking about it all the time, and it makes you sicker. And I think that's basically what she did. It wasn't too long after that event happened at my aunt's house that I would be basically taking care of my mom, because I was the oldest child. Don't get me wrong, my 3 younger brothers, his dad also lived in the house, but I will come back and tell you why he was not in the house during this time. So I had to pick up a lot of slack because I was the oldest child. My mom she would spit up, not necessarily throw up, but it was just like a lot of mucus, tissues, paper towels and things like that. In one of the buckets that you get from the hospital, I used to have to empty those, clean them. Anything that she basically needed. If she needed water, I had to get her water for her. I had to keep rinsing the ice so that there were not little particles, bubbles, and things floating around in the water. I had to get the water as clear as I could get it. I remember times that my mom she was just basically too weak to walk, and she had to crawl to the restroom to spit up in the toilet. I don't know if it was just the medicine or just the overall illness that was bringing her to this point. And I remember a few nights in a row laying in my bed at night. I actually had been asleep, but I had been woken up to voices that I could hear through the wall where she was talking. And it wasn't clear the words that she was saying. It's just that you could hear voices talking. And I remember the first night I got up and I think I went in the kitchen to get something to drink. And it was like my mom's sisters were in there. The next night, my mom's mom was in there. And it would always be after dark when us kids were asleep that, come to find out, she was telling them about her sickness. But I guess she did it late at night so that we couldn't hear. I can't remember who was there the third night, but I do remember those conversations taking place. And then I remember one day after school, me and my brother under me, we came in. Well, we were at the door and she opened the door for us. And she told us to take our backpacks and put them in our rooms and then come sit down, that she wanted to talk to us. We put our backpacks up and we came into the living room. And I remember my mom saying, "I have a disease called HIV. Don't ask me why I was chosen to get it, but I am going to die one day." She told us how she was going to be in a casket one day and she would look just as little as we were. That is the part of the conversation that stood out because I can't remember any more of it. I understood what die means. I didn't understand what HIV was. I eventually let me back up a second. After we had the conversation, she gave us each a hug, me and my brother. And I don't think my brother really understood because at that time I think maybe he was like 6. I don't think he really understood the magnitude of what was going on. Because after we gave her a hug and we went on, he basically just went in his room to play. But I went in my room, and I always regret this. I went in my room and I was like, "Mom, when you die, can I have your playing cards?" Because I used to always want to play with her cards, but we couldn't touch the cards or the dominoes. Those were for the grown-ups. You know, kids don't take care of stuff. One piece is going to be missing. And she was like, "Girl, I'm not dead yet." I remember going to school one day. I think she had a talk with the teachers. I know at least in my class. And I really have forgot about this. I just remembered this detail while I'm talking to you guys. And I remember my teacher coming out and talking to me. Her name was Miss Cervantes. And I remember her taking me outside the classroom and asking me, was I okay? She was one of my favorite teachers. But they had me go in front of the classroom to tell the class about my mom. I didn't want to do it. I remember it took a while of me standing out there in the hall before I decided to go do that. But as time went on, my mom got put in the hospital, and my 3 younger brothers' dad had a cousin come in from out of town. She would always come in sometimes and stay with us, and this time she came in and she stayed with us while my mom was in the hospital. And she took us to visit her. I'm not quite sure how long she was in there, but when we got to the hospital, as soon as the door opened up, it was like my brothers and dad was in there. My mom was sitting on the bed, and we were walking in, and I seen her face was like this big. It was just swollen, like literally this big. And I tried to turn around and run back out of the door because it scared me. And the cousin pulled me back in, and I just like stood still. I didn't go close. I was scared. I never seen my mom like that. My mom, she said a few things to me. She always called me Miss Ann. That was my name, period. She called me Shamika sometimes, but basically it was Miss Ann. When I was in trouble, I definitely knew, because she was going to yell Miss Ann off of the balcony. So, it was just Miss Ann this, Miss Ann that. But, we stayed our time there at the hospital. And eventually she did come home. And we got to go back home and everything. And she would have days where I can't just say she was good, but I guess maybe she wasn't as bad as she had been. So she would get up and cook house. She would cook food, clean the house, turn music on, dance around. I guess trying to forget her troubles. She had a best friend named Ruby, a little Mexican lady that lived in the apartments the next set over from ours. Ruby had 2 daughters, Jessica and Jennifer. She adopted a little boy named Lazaro. I've been looking for all of them for years on Facebook. I don't remember any last names, but I've been definitely trying to find them because I know that Ruby would love to see us. Because the second time that my mom went into the hospital, she was in there. Well, I can't even say that it was the second time because she went into the hospital other times. But the last time that she went into the hospital, we went to stay with Ruby. Ruby took us to school. Ruby got us dressed. Ruby took care of us. My grandmother got the last 3 boys, which is my mom's mom. Me and my brother under me, we stayed with Ruby. And my grandmother always used to come by when she would go see my mom, and she would stop by to see if we wanted to go see her. And it's just another regret that I have in life that has bothered me over the years. And I would tell her no because I was scared to see my mom look the way that she was when I went to see her, when her face was swollen. I just was terrified. My brother under me, he would always say no, but like I said, he was younger, so I know that he didn't understand what was really going on. He was just a kid wanting to do kid things, play with friends, have a good time, go to the playground. If I could take it all back, I would definitely get in a car and I would have went to see my mom. I guess from the other times that she went to the hospital, she always came home. In today's world, I know people with HIV or AIDS that live for years, live a lifetime, basically. There's a guy that used to help with my mom later on in life through the Paso. I didn't know younger that he had AIDS, but he had it before my mom even got it, and he's still living to this very day. But like I said, I think my mom just stressed herself so bad that I think it ate at the illness even more. And one night, about 12 o'clock at night, we had been asleep. My grandmother, one of my aunts, and her husband came and picked me and my brother up, put us in the car, and I'm just ready to go back to sleep. I'm not thinking anything because, guys, this is like, it's basically like a new experience. We've never dealt with death. We've never seen death. We've never seen sickness, except for like a cold or something. Everything that we learned about death, or that I know about death, I learned through my mom. So as we're getting in this car and everything, like I said, I'm just ready to go back to sleep. My brother gets in there and he immediately goes back to sleep. I ride for a little bit and I go to sleep and I wake up. And then we get to my grandmother's house and there's a house full of people. And I hear them as I'm going to the room to take my coat off to lay back down, and I hear them talking about my mom. I hear them talking, having a good time, just talking about now what I know were memories of the good times that they had with her. But at that time, I didn't understand. As I was taking my coat off to get ready to lay down, my second brother under me, if that makes sense, he came to the door and he was like, "Mika, you remember that movie where that man killed that woman?" And I'm like, "No, I don't know what you're talking about because I'm tired. I'm just trying to go to sleep." And he was like, "Yes, you do." He was like, "You remember where that man, he killed that woman with that knife and stuff?" And so I just told him yes, so he could go on, so I could lay down. And he was like, "That's what happened to Mama." And right when he was saying that, my grandmother and one of my aunts were walking by. One of my mom's sisters, they were walking by. And I just broke down. I was crying, I was screaming, because I understood that I had lost my mom. And I remember them coming and hugging me and telling me that we were about to come tell you. And I just remember everybody comforting me. I don't remember a lot about that night. I remember crying. And I guess I cried until basically I woke up. Then it brings me to the day of viewing her body. My grandmother took my mom. She had picked out a blue gown, a blue sheer top that covered it. She had something on her head. I can't quite remember. I don't remember if it was like a halo of flowers, but it was just like a very pale, pretty blue. Sounds like somebody's outside. But when we got to the mortuary to view her body, it was a lot of us that had went. And as we were walking through the hall, I see in the other rooms bodies lifted up in caskets, and I'm just getting scared. I'm just holding on to one of my older aunt's hand tight, because my body is starting to stiffen up. My legs are getting to where they don't even want to walk, because I know where I'm going to stop is going to be my mom's body. And my mom was the last one in the last room on the right. And I remember turning in there and seeing her body propped up. And I tried to turn around and run. I was crying and screaming. and they were trying to pull me back in. And my aunt was like, no, 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 y'all.